When interest rates got to 22% in 2008 to 12 during the recession, the bankers, Chris Held, a friend of mine from Dial Realty, took me to lunch and he said, "How much do you owe?" And I said, "60 million, I'm in debt." And he goes,
Said that very cavalier.
and he goes, if you owe $1 million, you got a problem. When you owe 60 million to the bank, they got a problem.
Yeah.
And I never looked at it that way, that we're in this together.
Yeah, sure.
So I really helped paradigm shift my brain to go to the banks and say, let's work
What can
this
we do
out.
here? Yeah.
And we did. Every one of them we worked out. Everybody won, no judgments.
On today's episode of Heading West, we have real estate investor, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, John Hoich. Steve, talk about a guy who had all the cards stacked against him, not just a couple and little setbacks, literally everything that could go wrong early on in your life did for John.
I can't imagine John being the head of the household at 16 after both parents died, becoming a ward of the state.
Yeah.
And he had everything going against him. And he has done phenomenal things in real estate and given money away. And this is a great inspirational story, how he had it all and then he lost it.
Yeah.
And he got it back.
He's sort of a legend around Omaha, and partly because of the setbacks he had early on and what he's overcome. I mean, we joked offline about it that if he had a normal upbringing and foundation to build off of, to see what he's done is incredible. But the fact that he had so much go wrong early on and has accomplished what he has, and just the human he is, he gives so much away. He's present with his kids. He's all these amazing things. It's mind-boggling how he ended up where he is today, despite all the things that happened early on in his life. So this could be a great one for people to listen to.
And it's a great testament that your past doesn't define your future.
So true. Well, let's head west. Stay tuned as we discuss building a real estate empire, losing it all and building it back, and overcoming adversity with our guest, John Hoich. This episode is brought to you by Skyline Point Capital. If you're anything like me, you're always considering where to invest your money. Stocks, bonds, crypto, and rental home, the list is literally endless. As we've all seen over the past year, the stock market is unstable, the housing market is just weird, and inflation is on the rise. In times like these, the clear place to invest my money is in multifamily real estate, aka apartment complexes. Here's why. Returns on real estate investments have little to no correlation with the stock market. There's lower volatility, stable income streams, and the tax benefits are insane. And let's not forget that the apartments will typically appreciate in value over time, which means you can walk away with a pretty nice return when the complex is sold in 3 to 5 years. Best of all, multifamily investing is passive, so you get all of the benefits without the hassle and headache of your typical rental home investment. Getting started has never been easier. Head to skylinepointcapital.com to learn how you can start investing today. Well, John, you're sort of a well-known person in these parts. If you live in Omaha long enough, you start to hear stories about John Hoich. So I thought it'd be fun to start with a game. I'm going to read a couple stories that I've heard. You tell me if they're true or false. You can elaborate on them. You can correct them. But let's start with, is it true that you once owned a mowing company? You realized that the apartment complex you were mowing was going to be sold, and instead of losing the contract, you bought the apartment, and that's actually how you got started in real estate. True? False?
True.
Really? That's a heck of a way to get into real estate. I love that.
But I got in real estate before that.
Okay.
But that did happen, that incident.
Kind of walk us through that. How did that?
Well, it was a property that was for sale, and the guy was wanting to move on to building a new one in Kansas, and said he was going to sell it. And I was like thinking two things. I've always wanted to own one that size, which was 100 units. And he had it for sale. There was no broker involved at this point, and I've got to know the resident manager there. So that probably half the properties I bought was no broker involved. Sorry, brokers. But I was able to buy direct by, mainly the property manager, the leasing agents, or the resident manager would always kind of build a relationship with the owner. And when he was time to 10 years into it or whatever, he wanted to move on to his next deal, then I bought at least 5 of them that way.
Wow. How'd you bypass the broker? Did you have the knowledge? Did you just read books? I mean, or did you take a gamble and it worked out?
Well, brokers surely don't take away the gamble of a deal. Brokers is finding party A to party B, who's selling, who's buying. And I respect brokers. I have a degree in real estate, and and I would have done that possibly, but never did do that. But brokers are investors. I mean, there's a lot of people. There's insurance brokers, real estate brokers. There's all kinds of mortgage brokers. The banks are brokers. So I think that lots of people are brokers, but I guess the bottom line is they have to be paid. They have to feed their family. And so if they find a deal for you, definitely they're worth paying every penny to them.
Yeah.
And if you can find the seller or find a buyer without them, they'll never know about it. So they didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
I didn't do it to just avoid a broker.
Yeah.
But by all means, definitely you can go direct to what I enjoy about it with no brokers. I can interact with the seller and not have to feel like I got to go to a third party and talk and ask questions and then get the whole story.
Yeah.
And so my intuition then can tell myself whether the person is really, telling the truth or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. So again, people around Omaha know you fairly well, but a lot of people know you for real estate. You've bought and sold lots of, whether it's commercial or multifamily here in the Midwest, but particularly Omaha. Is that something you knew early on you wanted to get into? It sounds like you got a degree in real estate, so I imagine there was something planted in you early on that made you want to get into real estate, right?
No, I mean, it just happened.
Yeah.
Slowly. The story didn't take it that way. I mean, I didn't grow up to be a real estate. My dad wasn't in real estate. I didn't know anybody in real estate. Mm-hmm. I just kind of learned as I was young. When I started my business, I don't even know if people think of me as real estate. I was known as the guy that started with a lawnmower, probably more than the great success stories of real estate people in Omaha. I'm definitely not one of them.
Yeah.
As far as a family history of the real estate success stories, but I've been one of the beginner ones that it started with the way I did and where I'm at today, and I've enjoyed it. It's been a journey, and it's been ups and downs. It had the good times and the bad.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into your story then. You said you teed it up perfectly. You said started with a lawnmower. Start with a lawnmower, and then where to go.
So the fast story, those that know me, please don't be bored. The ones that haven't heard the story, I started off with an alcoholic father who was a violent drunk, would come home and from his bar off of 28th and Q Street and called the First and Last Chance. My mom met him in 58, found out that she met him when I was about 3 months old, which was something I learned just the last 3 years.
Wow. So
that was an interesting thing, to find out your dad wasn't your dad.
Wow.
But at the time that I thought I was, he came home drunk and beat me from 5 to 11 and continually told me I was a no good, rotten little bastard and would never amount to nothing as he bashed my head in drywall and beat up my mother. I had 4 sisters and a brother with a bad heart named Michael, 3 holes in his heart upside down and reversed. And so he was sick from the time he was born, but I loved him with all my heart. Mm-hmm. And he passed away at 21 with heart disease, but was a big part of my life, in each other's lives, as long as he was alive. Mm-hmm. My mother died in front of me when I was 16 years old as a junior at Westside High School, and the greatest high school in the world, by the way, District 66. And because they're so great, because they were like family. District 66 and Westside High School, the counselors, the guidance counselors, the administration, and the students. But the school was very good to me and treated me like family. So when my mother died when I was 16, my dad left in and out of the house from 10 to 16, kept breaking in and beating us up. He died 4 years later after my mother, as a teenager, at 70 pounds of cirrhosis of the liver.
Wow.
So I, never smoked anything and hardly drank, mainly because my dad smoked 3 packs a day, my mom 2 packs back then, and I hated it.
Yeah.
And so I never smoked anything in my life, kind of a wuss, but not even a cigar or anything.
Yeah.
Not interested. And I went to from Westside High School. But at 16 years old, when my mom died, I had no money, no parents, and inherited a Sears Craftsman lawnmower.
Yeah.
This is the picture
That
of the
one?
lawnmower.
Wow.
And so this is how it all started.
Oh, wow.
And that's the lawnmower.
Yeah.
And that's the suit I bought at Goodwill. But the bottom line is that lawnmower is actually being completely renovated, and I'm supposed to get it in the next week or so.
Holy smokes. You still have it.
The guy,
That's so cool.
The guys from Ty's lawn mowing company, Ty's, is rebuilding it. So I'm excited about getting it. It's all refurbished and trying to figure out, maybe I'll put it at Steve Navity's barn here down with his tractor downstairs. I was thinking
That'd be an honor to have your lawnmower.
Thank you.
But you got to keep it at your valley place.
Well, we got to figure out something.
Yeah.
So with that lawnmower, I start mowing one yard next door, the Geschwinder resident, and went over, and she's put me in her Eldorado Cadillac, and she says, "Come with me." And she had a big cigarette filter and a cigarette hanging on her mouth, which I hated cigarettes, but I got in her car. She took me over to her building, Geschwinder Real Estate, off 114th and Center. So I said, "You're going to mow my yard and you're going to mow my office." And I do real estate. I own Randall School of Real Estate. She was the founder, which almost everyone in real estate in Douglas County, Sarpy County, maybe Nebraska and Iowa, went to college of Randall, went to school at Randall School of Real Estate before they took their broker's test. It was probably the best program there is. It's still in business today. And she said, "You're going to mow my home, you're going to mow my office, and you're going to bill my office for my home." I go, "Well, if I'm going to do your house," she goes, "Listen, this is how you do it in real estate.
Yeah.
This is business. This way. I'll explain later." So then I went behind her house, knocked on the door to ask that guy, Bruce Steinfeld, if he wanted his yard mowed, and he said, "Sure. Get in my car." Gave me a ride to his it's a restaurant he just bought called Cork and Cleaver off of 72nd and Mercy, and now it's called the Drover, the great steakhouse.
Yeah.
"You're going to mow my yard, you're going to mow my office, you're going to bill my office." I went, "Man, you two know you're neighbors, but you got the same program here." And I didn't understand. I honestly didn't understand how to screw the government at that time. But I just, but anyway, that was the beginning of my understanding house mowing.
Yeah.
Go to have a building and have your building pay for your house. And went, I need a building someday, So, but it really kind of was my introduction to real estate, and then Mrs. Geschwinder, I would ask her a lot of questions about real estate. And I graduated from Westside High School, thank God, at class of 76, and went to UNO, University of Nebraska at Omaha, the greatest college in the world. And I joined the fraternity with David Nabity. He was in my pledge class.
My ugly brother.
Yeah.
That
Former
handsome
guest as
gent.
well.
Former guest, yes.
And it was a very big honor to be in the pledge class in Pi Kappa Alpha, which Walt Nabity was, I think,
One of the founders.
One of the founders of
Is that your
Pi Kappa.
father?
That's my dad.
Wow. All right.
So I got to know the Nabitys right out of, and then I joined Suburban Rotary, the greatest Rotary club in the world. and Suburban Rotary. I joined in 1978, and Walt Nabity was a Rotarian in Suburban Rotary, and so it was
He
really
can't get away from us.
I know,
He's-
right?
And then I moved, and so I bought my first house from P.J. Morgan's father, Paul Morgan,
Wow.
at 2301 South 23rd Street. It was a house, and I'm 18 years old. I'm at UNO in the Pikes, and it was 23rd and B for $6,500. And it was old then, you know. I mean, it was, and I bought it, and then I made a deal with the Pike brothers. I said, "You guys help me fix this up. You could party in it on the weekends."
Yeah.
You know, all of them still lived at home, so this was a hell of a deal. And that worked out really good, and I fixed it up. And then when I left UNO, I sold the house for $13,500, and I went,
Ooh,
God,
there's a profit there.
I had to mow a lot of yards to make that kind of money.
Yeah.
And so I moved into with Scott Cernick into the Boardwalk Apartments, and for 2 years, and I built a house in Walnut Grove at 144th and Q. I bought 2 lots from Ray Kopecky, lived and built the duplex. Lived in half, rented out the other. And I learned that, and the neighborhood sued us because there was no duplexes allowed. Fun part about it was that we won the lawsuit because it was 2 single attached dwellings. So then I started to learn about chattel and real estate, and and zero lot line zoning.
Yeah.
And I went, boy, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
And so I was mowing subdivisions, apartment complexes now, SIDs, got into the nursery business, and I lived in that duplex, rented out the other side. And within 5 years, the other side paid my side. And so here I am, like 24 years old, with, in a sense, a no mortgage payment.
That's great.
I did a 15-year fully loan amortization, which taught me so much, about real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed there till I was 35 years old, and went fast, like life does.
Yeah, sure.
But from that point, I was buying more rental properties and real estate, and I bought with Chuck Lake, and a very close friend from all my life, like a brother. And we bought 4 rental houses, and off of the Med Center area, and sold those. And then I got into a 5-plex off of Saddle Creek, and then I ended up getting a 66-plex, 100, 144, 168.
Yeah.
It just kept growing.
Yeah.
And so the business kept growing and had its ups and downs, with interest rates getting to 22% in 1982. But Rotary has been a great thing. This next week I get 44 years perfect attendance in Suburban Rotary.
Yeah.
I love Rotary, and a lot of great real estate geniuses that I met through Rotary, and mortgage people and bankers and lawyers and great investors. Some of the greatest, Nate Schwab, really gentlemen, and Jerry Gordman, some Alan Simon with Omaha Steaks even. They owned all their buildings, and they made just as much in the real estate sometimes as their businesses. And so I started to see that the real estate is a way to make money, but you can still have your operating business.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, would buy their building instead of renting, And so I bought a farm at 28 years old at 186 in Harrison. And over the years, 18 years time, I ended up forming 535 acres through a lot of help with Maury Udis that owned Builder Supply, and we put it all together. And Paul Brown was his attorney who sold it all. Maury bought it from me, and so that was a huge sale, netted a lot of money, and ended up taking that, and I learned 1031 exchanges.
Oh,
and so
boy.
I moved about $12 million into about $100 million worth of deals by down payments of all kinds of projects everywhere. And so then I started to learn the power of the banks being part of the loans, and then multiplying difference. I did retail. I 15 shopping centers in my career that I was involved in with Jerry Slusky, the greatest real estate genius lawyer in the world. I love him with all my heart. We did several apartments. We did several strip malls over 20 years. Jerry taught me so much that forever I will love Jerry Slusky and all that he taught me and that I learned. And I some days were good, some days
Yeah.
were bad, but I went and did some strip malls, and then the interest or '08 to 12 was a learning curve. Business in my mind was, I felt like it was terrible. It was the worst time of my life, 2008 to 12, but it was the greatest learning experiences of what not to do.
Yeah.
And one of it was leverage. If you're over leveraged, it's not good. Net worth means nothing, and cash flow means everything.
Yeah. That's a great segue, because you had sort of alluded to that your path in business and real estate took off, and it kind of built steam real quickly. And I was going to follow up by asking, has it been like that ever since, or has there been some ups and downs along the way? But it sounds like there was a couple of years there where
2 times in my life, which were both the greatest learning times in my life.
in loss, like, so
Yeah.
things came crumbling down, but
Luckily,
you learned.
I had no bankruptcies,
Yeah.
no judgments or lawsuits. But but that was only for 2 reasons. One, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior and God that I prayed a lot to. I know that helped because He helped me keep going.
Yeah.
And He helped me keep going by communication. So both times when interest rates got to 22% in 2008 to 12 during the recession, the bankers, Chris Held, a friend of mine from Dial Realty, took me to lunch and he said, "How much do you owe?" And I said, $60 million, I'm in debt. And he goes,
Said that very cavalier.
if you owe $1 million, you got a problem. When you owe $60 million to the bank, they got a problem.
Yeah.
And I never looked at it that way, that we're in this together.
Yeah, sure.
So I really helped paradigm shift my brain to go to the banks and say, let's work
What can
this
we do
out.
here? Yeah.
And we did. Every one of them we worked out. Everybody won. No judgments, no lawsuits. And so it's going to happen again. I don't know when,
Sure.
but there's going to be the ups and downs. But my recommendation to anybody in life, and the 2 greatest things in my life are my twin boys, Jeremy and Justin. My twins are 25, and they didn't. And I've always told them, just communication transparency is the key to success with your bankers, your partners, your friends, your employees, anybody in life that you're friends, whatever relationships. If you just tell the truth, don't lie, and be transparent, everything works out.
Yeah. I'd love to spend some time on that season of your life where things might have not gone well. Sort of 2 questions. 1, what did you learn about loss during that time? But then 2, how did you build back upon that? Like a better way of building, if you took this dip, how do you make it stronger going forward?
I was like Robert E. Lee, who was born January 19th, same day I was.
Okay.
When the pride of the South, and he was losing the war.
Yeah.
And he realized that he had to save all that he could to go on with his life, and he pulled out his men, and they took off, and tried to stop as much waste and losses as possible. And that's what I did. I looked at my whole portfolio, and the good news, I had a huge portfolio at that point in the recession period. And the World Herald came and did an article of rags to riches story, and they asked me at the wrong time in life because it was like in 2011.
Rags to riches to rags.
Yeah, and it was rags to riches to rags that year, and then they put it on the front page of the Sunday World Herald, and
Wow.
The whole and if I said one day I thought I was Warren Buffett, and the next day I didn't think I had anything, But then everybody goes, "Well, you don't have anything." No, it's people will read how they want to read something, but the good news, I had plenty. I just needed to work out everything. But it was a learning lesson that I'll never, ever stop thanking that period of my life that I went through it. I mean, failure's not fatal.
Oh, that's good.
And Warren Buffett says, failure's not getting down, it's staying down. And I was not going to stay down. And today, if it happened, I'd do it again. But what I did learn is that over leverage was probably my biggest negative. I spread myself too thin and had too many deals and not enough cash flow, and was focusing on the wrong thing. And as a child, as I grew up, not having a dad and my mom dying so young, that I just read the paper and magazines and articles about net worth that said how much Donald Trump's worth and Warren Buffett's worth and Steve Nabity, and So those three guys, you'd follow their net worth. And but the whole point was following people's net worth was, I thought, the key to success.
Yeah.
That was the scorecard.
Yeah.
That was when you know that you're successful, when you made more money, had net worth. And then I realized through 08 to 12, and it changed my life forever. I learned two things. Net worth means nothing. Nobody cares what you got. They want what you got in many cases. And cash flow is king.
Yeah.
And what people think of you is none of your business.
Yeah. I love that. That's one of those, as being a legend, so to speak, of Omaha, there's some Hoichisms that, or coined phrases that you're known for, which is one of them. What people think about me is none of my business. But the other one, which I think you sort of alluded to here, is to be rich is to know when you have enough.
I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And I love, this is a quote I heard from Tom Osborne at a Brene Brith when I was 28. And he said to all these Jewish gentlemen and some Christian people and different, and I was there, and it was probably one of the greatest things I ever heard, because I think about it, even through all the ups and downs in life, was I've never seen a hearse pull a U-Haul yet.
Yeah.
So no one's ever taken it with them, and it's just stuff.
Yeah.
And it depreciates, and so buy what appreciates, lease what depreciates. But when the game's over, you either leave it to charity or your family or the IRS.
Yeah.
One of those three are going to get
former. It. Less the latter.
Yeah. So it's just so if you're God's first and family's second and all the other stuff's third, then you live I think a good normal life. And we all struggle as deal junkies and entrepreneurs as you grow up to keep those straight. But the more times that I realign myself with God first, family second, and deals third, my life goes smoother.
Can I jump in
Yeah,
here?
please.
Hey, John, you said deal junkie. Back in the heyday before 2008, and I even see it today with people I work with. They get so caught up in the next deal. I've got to do the next deal. It's like a drug. Did you have that when you were
On steroids.
on steroids?
Jerry Slusky would call me and just wait. What? No, what?
Yeah.
Just wait. No, tell me.
Yeah.
I found a deal. Where? When can we buy it?
Yeah.
How do we get in it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, and he was right there with me, and I love him, and we had fun, and we just, it was kind of the biggest high. I've never did drugs and never.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was my high. It was my addiction was workaholism. My sons will be the first to tell you that I never missed one of their activities in life. But when I wanted to sell the business 3 years ago, they both said they don't want my job. I go, what's my job? And they said, well, you're a workaholic and a deal junkie. We don't want to be like. We want our own experiences and journey.
Yeah.
And but I'm no longer a deal junkie. I haven't been since 2012. And Jerry Slusky one day called me and he said, what time is it? And date and time. I said, it ended up being December 12th, 2012 at 12 noon. At that day, my life changed. I look at everything with calculated measure now. I don't do anything unless it makes sense.
Yeah.
I look at something now and I want to know how I can get out of it tomorrow if I buy it today.
Oh, that's good.
What is my exit strategy before I do it?
Yeah.
I never did that before, ever. I didn't care. I just wanted to get in the deal.
Yeah.
And I found that it gave me, when I had anything materialistic or real estate or even another weed eater or a lawnmower, it defined me, because my dad always told me I was a no good rotten little bastard, never amount to nothing. I wanted to prove him wrong. And in 2008 to 12, my biggest, hardest things I went through was feeling like that he won, even though he had died when I was 20 years old. I thought that he had won, and it really was tough on me to think that he had won, and yet it was mind. Your mind can do terrible things to you when you're down and depressed and upset.
Yeah.
And so, but failure's not fatal, but suicide is. And I sure wasn't going there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to let stuff get me that depressed. Where unfortunately we know some people that real estate deals during 08 to 12, we lost a couple great leaders in Omaha, Nebraska through suicide and depression. because their cloud got so dark they didn't know how to get out.
Yeah.
But they had their priorities on stuff instead of God and their family and then stuff. And
Yeah.
so that's really important.
Yeah. Having that foundation, I imagine, helped you rebound from those sorts of things. But how did you had a rough childhood. I mean, those are formative years. Parents have a large impact on their children. How are you able to not have that define you? Not only that, your childhood, but also 2008, 2012. That's a defining moment, and it can be something that defines you. How did you work past that, or maybe break that
I think
chain?
that's what my book about
Yeah, from the
really
ground up.
is, overcoming adversity. I overcame it being at Westside High School in class of 1976. To the best of my knowledge, I was like one of the only people from 10 years old when my mom and dad divorced. I think in the whole District 66, we were the only divorced family. Nobody got divorced.
Yeah.
They just, whether they're happy or not, they stayed together.
Yeah.
And so that was my first overcoming adversities, being in a divorced family. Then we went on welfare in ADC as a child of what they call a ward of the state, from 10 years old to 19. So the state was my parents. And I went to Baker's in Westgate Plaza with food stamps. On my bicycle, while my 16-year-old friends were in Trans Ams,
Yeah.
and I rode that to school. It was
Yeah.
tough. Was I jealous? Yes. Was I sad? Yes. Did I feel like I got the bad deck of cards? Yes. But I was going to prove them wrong. And my mother's casket, I told her when I looked at her when I was 16, she was 39. I told her I'd be a millionaire to age 30 and that I'll help my sisters and my brother forever. And I still committed to that. Unfortunately, lost my brother. And then I went to Westside High School when I was 30 and made my first million. I made my goal.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to help. And this year I gave 34 scholarships every year now at Westside at the Hoich Alumni House at 90th and Pacific, of boys and girls who write a 300-word essay, how they didn't give up, how they overcame their adversity, and what can I do to give them a hand up,
Yeah.
not a hand out.
Yeah.
And tore down that bar with the Stevens Center. We got rid of the First and Last Chance on 28th and Q and built the John Hoich Center for Recovery. 32 rooms for women, 32 for men, to give people a hand up,
Yeah.
not a hand out. And in my will, I'm leaving a lot of money to the Hoich Recovery Center and to the Westside Alumni and Rotary to continue to help people after my death to give that hand up perpetually.
That's funny you bring up that story, because that was actually one of my true or false stories that we led with. So I'll read it here. I once read that you knocked down your father, or was it your uncle's bar?
Yeah.
Dad's bar, First and Last Chance bar, in order to set up a recovery center. Essentially, it's kind of poetic justice, essentially offering second chances to people who have struggled. So it sounds like that's true.
That's true. And so as I said,
Yeah.
that my dad inherited the bar from my uncle, George Hoich, who died in a car wreck in 1957, and my dad inherited it and $500,000.
Wow.
And from 57 to 68, he lost all the money and bankrupted the bar. So he did worse than anybody I knew almost, but alcoholism is a terrible disease.
Yeah.
Drug and alcoholism is a terrible thing that can really ruin your lives, and in any addiction.
Yeah.
But of course, he was the maximum. And the beautiful thing is, I was honored to be on the Omaha Planning Board for the city of Omaha. I believe the longest serving, 18 years of my life. And I was on one of the meetings where the Stevens Center had came in and said, we want to acquire this bar, or they already did, and they want to knock it down and wanted zoning for it. And I start crying in front of all my colleagues saying, I can't believe this. And I was crying of the hurt from what I went through. I was also crying of the joy
Yeah.
that the Sharon and the McNeil family, the Sharon McNeil, I believe was her and her husband Dick uh, built the first Stevens Center homeless shelter, and then they were able to grow it, and then they were now wanting to expand to build a recovery center.
Yeah.
And they picked my dad's bar of all places to tear it down next
Incredible.
to it. It was just like a story that God
Yeah.
had planned.
Divine.
And so I walked out after the vote and explained to my colleagues why I was being a baby and crying so much.
I caught him off guard a little
Yeah, and said, I don't know how I'm going to be part of this, but I want to be part of it. And the rest is history that I got to be part of it.
Yeah.
And it's a great story to say that if I can do it, anybody can do it. Never give up. And I go, and I'm honored to go talk to the clients. We don't call them patients because they're heroes, and we don't call it the John Hoich Center for Recovery. It's on the building,
Yeah.
but the program's called Hero Program. They're heroes for transitioning their lives.
That's excellent.
So what was the first and last chance forever gives now people a second chance.
That's how cool.
Yeah. Only divine can that be set up that way.
Yes. So so I just believe relationships are so important.
Yeah.
The accountability of your life is important. Doing the right thing and giving back and have a purpose and passion about everything in life is the biggest thing that I've learned through all the mentors in my life. Joe McDermott of Loveland Lawn, Alan Simon from Omaha Steaks, Howard Hawks, some great people who just gave me time in their life to teach me impact. The years with Jerry Slesky were some of the greatest years because of all the mistakes we made, but all the great things we did. That the key to success is find a need and fill it. If you do something wrong, learn from it. Don't do it again. It's so many people do it again.
Yeah, right.
They just don't learn. And it's like, hello, and I don't like the word stupid because to me it's a big negative, but learn from, when I meet somebody successful, I don't ask them, tell me how rich you are.
Sure.
Or
How'd you do it?
I say, what did you do wrong?
Yeah.
And what would you have done different? I've always done that. And it's helped me try to avoid that problem.
Yeah.
I love reading books, and you can get them on Amazon of people, their failures as compared to their successes.
Right.
That I find them more interesting. The stories are greater, and usually there is a learning from the failure that you don't get when there's a story about success.
Yeah.
And I'd love that.
More relatable too.
Yeah, it is.
And the humbler, the better.
The humbler, the better.
The more, I never thought myself as arrogant or cocky or egotistical because I didn't have enough money or knew anybody or have any reason to do anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't an Iron Man or anything. but
Never ends from
Yeah, I
John.
know,
Never
right?
ends.
But bottom line, I did find myself at a point in my life and telling people my net worth because I thought that was, you were supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And then finally, and I joined YPO, and everybody in there had lots of net worth.
Yeah, sure.
So I just kind of started to think that, being in articles, I probably have had 500 articles written in my lifetime and my book, and went to 38 states through Rotary telling it. And in my beginning stories, we're talking about getting to my goals of net worth.
Yeah.
And then I found out that maybe as I got even more counsel from certain humbler people saying, telling what you got is why I told it wasn't meant to be for arrogance or bragging. It was, that I finally amounted to something. But when I found out that wasn't what amounted me, when I found out, that people like me, because of me finally, I found that I had self-worth.
Oh, yeah.
And I never had
good.
it till I got older and older and older. And now I'm so old, and thank God I learned it now.
Yeah.
But it's just that it's interesting how most people with don't realize their self-worth, and they think that it's got to be by net worth and by stuff.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's just things you learn over time. Like I'd like to believe that we are in tune enough to take people's mistakes and learn from them, but that's almost sometimes you just have to go through it yourself. Like I imagine your twin boys, you brought them up. I imagine if they came to you and used you as sort of a litmus test, they'd see, oh, I see all the things I should do and should not do. Do you find that they're receptive to, or do they need to do it themselves and fail?
They go to bed at night saying the Hoichisms.
Which I've got a few of them we can go through.
But they, I preach to them all the time. I'm sure they get tired of it.
Yeah.
Oh, Dad, I heard that. But
They can finish every one of them.
yeah, but and I say stuff. I swear, since they were born,
Yeah.
till they're 25 now, and I play this stupid game, and they hate it, and I'll start it, and they have to finish it, or they don't get whatever they want.
Yeah.
So I'll just say, do unto, and then
Yep.
they finish, do unto others as
Yeah.
you want them to do unto you. It's
Yeah.
the first one I learned in life, but to this day, it's the most important one.
Yeah.
And buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
And some of these silly things, but they all really make a big difference. And trust in God, all others pay cash.
Yeah. I love that one. That's great.
And I learned that one just because, you want to trust everybody, but sometimes people will let you down, that you felt like you could trust. And some people don't tell the truth. And it's hard. I think that was the hardest things when I learned that the people I counted on did let me down.
Sure.
One of them was my own dad.
Yeah. So if net worth no longer is the definition of success for you, what is at this point?
Health, my walk with God, being the best dad I can be for my sons, being the best person I can for my friends, staying active in charities. I'm very fortunate to be part of a foundation called the Charles E. Lakin Foundation, and I have the John Hoich Foundation, so I'm still have that, but on a full-time basis now, I'm the vice president of the Charles E. Lakin Foundation. It was a guy that I mowed his yard when I was 16.
Of course.
That called me the orphan mow boy.
Yeah.
His son became...
Orphan mow boy.
I know, right?
I started my lawn business with my very close friend Joe Smith, who's county attorney in Madison County for 38 years, and he went on to Creighton in law school. I bought him out for $400, and then I met Mr. Lakin when I was 16, and he called me the orphan mow boy, brought me an iced tea, and brought me in his house and said, these are all my holdings, and he was the largest citrus fruit grower in Yuma, Arizona, and the largest continuous landowner in the state of Iowa for farms.
Wow.
And then 45 years later, I am now managing all those assets for the foundation. He died and left it all to charity. And his son and I are very close. We're like brothers, and I consider him my brother. And his name's Charles Lakin III, and he lives in Yuma, Arizona. So we manage it and give away to $8 to $10 million in Southwest Iowa communities.
That's great.
It's just people giving families in resilience with a hand up.
Yeah. What motivates you to keep doing so much? I mean, you're buying real estate, you're investing in businesses, you're giving away scholarships, you're running foundations. Why do so much?
In Rotary, over the 44 years that I've loved being in it, I'd watch executives or just average Joes, women and men, and they retire. And I'd watch the ones that just went home and start using the remote at the TV. Maybe went to Panera Bread in the morning for coffee and then went home the rest of the day and watched a lot of football. And sadly, they died within a year or two after they retired. And I was like, what's it all for? If you spent your whole life for what we think is now paradise and heaven, to retire and not have to work.
So true.
And I don't want my sons to win that I'm a workaholic, so I've told them that I am in detox and I'm no longer a workaholic. And so I enjoy the journey like they do and what they're doing and the experiences that they do. I bought an assisted living in Cape Coral, Florida. Our foundation just bought 154 units in Tampa, Florida. We're doing deals in Casa Grande and Coolidge, Arizona. We're just having fun with experiences.
Yeah, sure.
And not leveraged, highly leveraged debt. We're doing them with where there's an exit strategy.
Yeah.
But to me, if you quit, you die. And
It's good motivation
So I
to
do
keep
not
going.
want to die. I want
Yeah.
now that I've learned all this shit, finally got to this point in my life.
Yeah. Let's use it.
It's time to learn from those mistakes and enjoy the journey, enjoy the experiences. And now my biggest goal in life is to serve God, to be great acquaintances and friends, enjoy people. I love people. I'm a people person,
Yeah.
obviously. I'm a major introvert.
That's surprising.
Doesn't say much, does he?
No, it doesn't.
No, I guess everyone knows me as an extrovert, but
Yeah.
bottom line is I love life.
Yeah.
And I heard the other day, and I've heard it before, like, God, you got to get 8 hours of sleep. It's important, just as much as your exercise and diet. And one guy said to me in the gym, well, I can sleep when I die, so I hardly sleep.
Yeah.
So, we go to heaven and you die, you're not, you're done here. But at this point, I want to stay here
Yeah.
a long time and enjoy this world and reap the harvest that I've worked hard for.
Yeah.
John, you've invested in Jeremy and Justin, and you've led them over the years, and you've wanted them to be in real estate with you, but they've taken different paths. Can you elaborate? How are you doing with that?
They both came to me and they didn't want to buy my business. Aaron Gunderson, a wonderful young man, his folks own Gunderson Jewelry. Him and his brothers bought my U.S. Grounds military mowing business. We went to 9 states, hundreds and hundreds of employees. It was a great career. And all my corporate accounts in Omaha. So Hoich Enterprises and U.S. Grounds is now still in business by Aaron Gunderson and Matthew Morgan. As part of it, and then I got out of Nebraska Scientific, which I bought for my sons, a dissection business for biology classes. And Jeremy and Justin just didn't want anything of that sort. They wanted their own experiences. They wanted their own journey.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to worry about where the fathers and daughters or mothers, whatever, family members fighting over the business and not and where it turns turmoil.
Yeah.
And I've seen some sad situations in Omaha and throughout the nation to where the kids quit the dad or they get thrown out of the will and terrible things happen. And who needs that crap? So I'm letting my boys do what they want to do. One's a glass blower. Jeremy's got Scales Glass. You can look on the internet for Instagram, Scales Glass by Jeremy Hoich. It's going to become the next Chihuly, or in fact, Chihuly will have to try to be like Jeremy. And Justin is a rock climber and just graduated from UNO and getting a master's degree at that they're giving him at UNL and to run their rock climbing wall and outdoor education program. And he wants to be an environmental scientist and a community planner for environmental. And
That's great.
But they
Their own
both like
path.
real estate.
Yeah.
They both got part of their degrees was real estate and business. And so I feel comfortable that they've learned enough from me and probably forced to learn enough from me. But I've explained to them enough, to understand what they're going to inherit someday.
Yeah.
Are they coming up with their own Hoichisms?
Yeah. Experiences and their own journey.
Yeah.
They want to live in the moment, and so they're teaching me. So you never stop learning, and it's neat when you can learn from your own children.
I love that.
So I am now living in the moment, new experiences and new journeys. And Steve Nabby and I we have a company called Groovy, capital Grew, capital V.
Yep.
Ventures
LLC.
I know.
Groovy Ventures.
So we're going to do some deals with his children and my children, and we're going to have them teach us.
Yeah, I love that.
Teach the old goats, right?
Yeah.
You said your sons are they're in real estate, so they're learning about it, so they must like it. What is it that you've always loved about real estate?
I love it, and I'm highly invested in the stock market, or it's invested in me, or own. Not
However
sure.
that goes.
Yeah, but with stocks, I feel like I can't control anything. If somebody farts wrong, the market goes up or down.
Right.
And in real estate, like business, it's something that you can own and give a good product and a service just like my lawn business. Only it's in apartments or a strip mall or a warehouse or flex buildings. I've done all the above. Farms, but it's neat to just see the outcome and take care of your tenants like a client.
Yeah.
And make them happy. And at the same time, they're paying rent that pays off the mortgage that gives you an asset for passive income and cash flow. I had my almost first heart attack when I asked my son, Justin, what do you want to do? He goes, well, I want to, be an environmental scientist but on the real estate side, I want to help and learn and be part of it. And Jeremy said, well, Dad, I really like the passive income. I'm like, what?
Yep.
Somebody was honest.
Yeah.
Got a degree in passive income?
Yeah. There should be a new one for that.
Yep.
Hey, John, I got a question for you. With the people today in the 30s and 40s, they're out there buying new apartment complexes. They're trying to do the next deal. If you had to go back and you talk to the John Hoich before 2008 in the 4, 5, and 6, what would you say to the John Hoich of that age about real estate, cash flow, the next deal, if you could do it again?
Well, a lot of people are scientists called OPM, other people's money.
Yep.
I've not been that type of person. I feel like, I don't mind partnering with someone, or owned by myself. But I think if you can't get in the deal by yourself, I would rather own the duplex that Ray Kopecki built me in Walnut Grove, where I owned all of it, than own 5% of a $100 million real estate venture. Just because I can control my journey and destiny.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It works for some who have no knowledge of real estate and just want to look at it as a stock.
Yeah.
It's no different like a stock. It's REIT. But if you want to do your own thing, I just encourage young people and older people, because I get asked at least a dozen times a day, how do I get into real estate? And I just say that over and over. Be able to get into something you can control, enjoy, learn, and as you grow, I literally went from the one house to a duplex to a fiveplex. I literally went up the ladder. It was just kind of funny. And now I'm actually, getting into my biggest one next that I'll be a major owner in is 180 units. And so it's interesting how I climbed up, but I have no goal anymore to have a lot more. I love cash flow and I love the journey and the excitement of it, but I sure don't want it at this point in my life to take me down.
Yeah.
So why risk what you have to gain something you don't need to lose all that you have?
Another Hoichism right there.
I got another question for John
please.
about partners.
Yeah.
Every business, there's usually a partner. Could be a small partner, but you're working with somebody. What have you learned over the years about partners? And if you're going to start a business or grow a business, can you tell us about what the partners should bring together so they have a successful business?
When I was 8 years old, I never told you this one, Steve, but I was 8 years old. I will never forget. I was watching a movie, which I'd like to find that movies. I've never watched it since, but I remember watching and retaining Howard Hughes saying about somebody was asking him to partner up with Hughes Aviation and Hughes Tools and all that. And he said, my daddy always said, a partner's nothing but dead weight.
That sounds like a Howard Hughes statement.
And I always remembered that. And I had some of those kind of partners where they just piggybacked off of me, used me, lied to me, hurt me, and offended me throughout the journey until I was out of that partnership. And I'm like, why did I have them? But when I was growing, when I was younger and I had no money and I was learning and I was building net worth and the ability to do things on my own, you sometimes need a partner, or sometimes my mind just said I do. I was scared. I was afraid. I was insecure. And I was scared to do it by myself. And even if I had someone that I didn't think was a good partner, it helped me with my insecurity of doing it on my own. Finally, I got over that, but it took a long time. Now I'm not afraid to do anything on my own anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that was why I needed a partner. But it's great when they can bring value,
Yeah.
they can bring knowledge, they can bring capital or connections.
Yeah.
All those are great when they can.
I think it's absolutely critical when you bring a partner together that you're aligned, think the same, know where the vision and goal is going. I see today in the real estate arena where people are partnering as just a partner, and there are totally two different goals, different alignment, and it doesn't turn out well. It doesn't turn out well at all.
Like the story you said on that strip mall. You helped a guy get in it, and then he wanted out for no reason.
Yeah.
You know, and he wasn't grateful at all.
Yeah.
You know, so it's people, you know, a big part of when I can help somebody, and I've helped several friends become millionaires, and I'm proud of that. And they also thank me, you know, so appreciation and gratitude is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we wrap up our episode, John, I'd love just to ask you, what's the end goal at the end of this? You obviously said you're not going to stop, because to stop is to die. But what's the end goal for you these days?
Wake up every morning, go to the YMCA in Valley, greatest Y in the world.
I'm picking up a trend.
Yeah.
I live at Timber Shore Lake in Valley. I love it with my neighbors and my friends. It's beautiful to see the Canadian geese wake my butt up in the morning, and just to get up, go work out at the Y, come home, have my coffee, and go at the day for the Lake and Foundation or my charities and my properties and my stocks, and talk to my sons as often and my friends and family, and just live life to the fullest. It's just my day. Every day is a new venture. Something different happens every day, and but I'm excited about it. And there's not one second now that I dread, where there was times in my earlier life that I did. Not to ever dread a second again till I go home to heaven. That's, to me, what I'm living for.
Yeah, that's a good way to end it. We end every episode with a speed round of questions just to get to know you a little bit better. Quick questions, quick answers. So I'll jump into them. Do you have any daily rituals you swear by?
Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Every day I want to make sure that when I say something, that what I want that said to me.
What's one business you wish you could go back and start or invest in?
Mr. Connector. I'd like to, before I die, or still, I would love to start a business called Mr. Connector, because all my life I've connected people together.
Oh, sure.
And if I could
almost
get
like LinkedIn.
if I could, I could have created LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
But if I really thought that my company would be called Mr. Connector LLC, because I still think there's a need, because every day somebody's saying, do you know, buddy? Do you know where I can get?
Yeah.
Can you introduce me to?
Yeah.
And if I got a fee for every one of those, Warren Buffett and I would be fighting for first place on the richest.
I don't doubt that. You're well connected. What's one piece of real estate advice that you'd give to others?
Understand what you're buying, building, getting into, and how to get out of it.
Yeah. Which situations do you find yourself most happy or fulfilled?
With my sons, having brunch on Sunday after church.
That's good. All right, you know the title of this show is Heading West, which is just get going in life, in business. You'll head in a certain direction. You'll change the path along the way, and you'll learn as you go. But with that in mind, as you head west, where do you hope to end up?
In heaven.
Amen.
The stairway to heaven.
I love that.
But I hope to end up, while I'm on earth, I am fighting my intuition and my heart and head to get a home in Florida, do some golfing more and some boating more and beach time.
Yeah.
Finally, it's time.
Yeah. Well,
Well
John,
done.
where can people find you if they want to get in contact with you, if they want to read your book, if they want to go to your website, where can they find you?
Hoich at hoich.com.
Easy peasy. Love it. John, thank you so much for joining us today. That was a blast hearing your story and getting to learn a little bit about your journey. here in
Thank you.
Omaha.
Thanks for having me heading west. Jake, Steve, God bless you.
Thanks.
God bless you, man.